Yeah. Is Prophet Woodyard? Oh, We've got lots of speakers. This is the regular weekly meeting of the Mobile City Council for Tuesday, February 27th, 2018. Please stand for an invocation led by Prophet Quentin Woodyard, Azalea City CDC, and remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father God, we just coming to you right now, thanking you, Lord. We just thank you, Father, for this day. And Lord, let the Holy Spirit roam in this place today, God. Lord, give our leaders wisdom, Father, with the Holy Spirit, Father, as they make decisions for this city. Lord, let it be you and not them, Father. Let the Holy Spirit come upon this place, God, and let us get with your will and not our will. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we sit, I'm going to ask that we would all stand that are able to for a moment of silence in honor and in memory of the life and legacy of Officer Justin Biller. Thank you.
Roll call, Vice President Manzi.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember Small.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Daves.
Here.
Councilmember Rich.
Here.
Councilmember Gregory. Here. Statement of rules.
Good afternoon. It's been a long day for not only this council, but for, I'm sure, the mayor, his administration, and for many in our city due to the funeral of one of Mobile's finest, Officer Justin Biller. So I'm going to ask that we all would obey our rules. We're going to give each one 5 minutes who signed in for items pertinent to the agenda. If the item that you would like to speak concerning is not an agenda item, we ask that you contact the clerk's office by 2 o'clock preceding the Tuesday in which you'd like to speak. At the ending of 4 minutes, you'll hear a bell. At that bell, you'll know that you have 1 minute left. At the concluding of the next bell, that will be the end of your 5 minutes. We ask that you would wrap your commentary up and be seated as expeditiously as possible. We ask that there be no outburst, public outcry. If you have any address to make, please make it to me, the chair, and any subsequent council member who would like to respond will have that ability. Thank each and every one of you for coming out. We know we've started a little bit late, but this has been an unusual day, and thank each of you for coming out this afternoon.
Approval of minutes of the meeting of February the 14th.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved.
Communications from the mayor.
Well, good afternoon. Glad to see so many people here this afternoon. Building upon what Vice President Manzi said, today's been a very emotional day for the City Council, myself, the members of the MPD, and really all of Mobile. A wide range of emotions, from sadness to pride. And there's no way to explain to you what we've just experienced riding in the motorcade from the church to the graveside, and to see all the officers from all across the country, from New York, Boston, Chicago, joining in this procession today. It made us it made me, and I think I'm speaking for the city council, all very, very proud to be Mobilians and see the outpouring of how many people were standing on the side of the road, many of whom were saluting, and others who were holding American flags, young and old, black and white, rich and poor. It was just very, very gratifying to see what we experienced today. And so if you didn't have a chance to witness it, I would suggest, I hope that you would have an opportunity to observe the news tonight, because it would make you too proud to be a Mobilian of the support that we all have for our first responders. Thank you.
Monthly finance report.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It has been a long day, and I'll keep this very short. I want to tell you that thus far in the year, our sales tax receipts are actually up a little bit over last year, which is also up a little bit over budget, about $600,000. That's less than 1% of the budget, but it's a lot better than being down 1%. So we're holding steady in spite of some of the issues we've talked about in the past having to do with e-commerce. Our general fund expenditures are staying comfortably below budget, so it's kind of steady as she goes, although it's early in the year to detect any trends. I did want to tell you that with your help, the City of Mobile has been somewhat successful so far in Montgomery. Last Wednesday, the Senate Finance and Taxation Committee reported an amended bill out of the committee favorably for consideration by the entire Senate that fails to do the things that were in the original bill that we didn't want to happen, and does some things that we do want to happen. First and foremost, the city's share of SSUT tax has been bumped by 1%, so from 2 to 3. Still divided by population statewide, but it gets us much closer to where we need to be. In addition, the bill, as reported out, makes it mandatory that the online platforms such as Walmart.com, Amazon.com collect sales taxes or SSUT taxes from their online platform sellers. Those people that Walmart.com or Amazon.com sell for, but for whom they have not been collecting taxes in the past, under the argument that they're not selling those items, they're just providing their platform for those third-party sellers to do so. Nevertheless, under the bill, if as drafted, if adopted, those collections will be mandatory. There were a couple of other things, as you recall, in the original bill that we found objectionable. They've been removed. So for right now, things are looking good, but I have been warned repeatedly that things can change in an instant in Montgomery. So our lobbyist, Beth Lyons, is watching over what is happening up there very carefully. We've had a great engagement with the other cities in the state who are situated the way we are, not only what we call the 5 big cities, but also the cities of Hoover and Anniston, Jasper, maybe one other that I'm forgetting right now. So the cities do seem to be getting engaged, and there are many other issues that are going to come up this session or next year, and this is a good pattern to have in place, I think, so that we don't waste a lot of time figuring out who our friends are and how to get engaged. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adoption of the agenda.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Appeals. Today is the appeal of the Mobile City Planning Commission's approval of a planned unit development to allow a new off-site parking lot to accommodate an existing medical clinic at 2001 Spring Hill Avenue and 137, 139, and 149 Tuscaloosa Street.
Motion to grant the appeal.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second to grant the appeal. Any discussion?
Mr. Vice President, there's several people that signed in to speak about this item.
Well, how many do you have, Ms. Merchant?
Looks like 7 or 8.
3, 4, 3 again.
We're going to ask that each person, if you could summarize your opinions and commentary in 3 minutes, that would be most appreciated. Who's first? Well, it's each person to have 3 minutes on these particular items.
Mr. Vice President,
Yes, sir?
for those people who appeal to us, the motion is to grant the appeal.
And we want to make certain, articulate what you're saying when you're saying that, Mr.
They did not accept the planning commission ruling.
Right.
They appealed it to the council. We voted to accept the appeal.
That's the motion on the table.
That's the motion on the table.
That's the motion on the table.
But they can
So if there's anyone after hearing his motion who feels there's no need for you to speak, you're certainly welcome to negate this opportunity. But if you want to come forward, you'll have 3 minutes.
Sidney Betbes.
Good afternoon. My name is Sidney Betbes. I work with Restore Mobile.
Can you state your name and address, please?
Thank you. I'm sorry.
problem.
Sidney Betbes. My address is 1210 Selma Street in Mobile 36604. I work with Restore Mobile, and I'm here to also show my support for the appeal, and we have a few reasons for that. Some of you might be familiar with our efforts at revitalizing communities and threatened properties in our neighborhoods. And we appreciate your support in the past for our efforts that we have done. On today's issue, we would like to work with any parties that are available to collaborate with trying to save the house, which is on the property that is where the intended parking lot would be. What we see in these neighborhoods is there's many reasons for blight, and it might be an abandoned property, it might be a property owner not taking care of their property. Another reason is when there is commercial encroachment on the footprint of somebody's neighborhood, it can sometimes have a domino effect, and it affects neighboring properties and the property values because people see the increased commercialization of their residential neighborhoods and streets as a threat. Finally, I think that the only thing that I need to say in effort to be brief is our position obviously is historic preservation is the preservation of that home in the area where it is, leaving it intact on the street where it is. In some cases that's not going to be possible. In this case it might not be. We understand that the developer is interested in trying to find someone to possibly partner with to move the structure. While that's not ideal for a house as important as this, it's a possibility, and we would like to work with you in hoping to find a solution to that. But this might be a good idea to also bring up the possibility that looking at the city's ordinance for demolitions might be something that we could look at, especially a property that's individually listed on the National Register or National Register neighborhoods. It just might be something down the road to prevent this type of issue coming up in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
George Brew.
George Brew, 1956 College Court. Maybe I'm not understanding, but you said the appeal was granted? No.
That's the motion. That's the motion.
That's the motion that has been made.
Okay, that's what, okay. Well, I concur with the Historical Society about the house, and if there's anything that can be done to preserve the house, we would appreciate you doing that. And I know that it'll devalue my property by putting a parking lot there, but you know, if it's zone B1, which they say it is, I've read through some of Dorothy Wells' paperwork, and from what I read, I'm not a lawyer, but there appears to be some problems with the zoning in 1990 going to the B1. And she wasn't notified. My neighbor that used to own the property that I own that backs up to the parking lot area, she wasn't notified. And to my knowledge, only one person was notified that this was going to switch to a B1. And if that's the case, I think somebody needs to consider what Ms. Wells has to say. Thank you.
Mr. Vice President.
Yes, sir.
My understanding of the law is in 1990, it wasn't required to notify. That was not, the law has changed since where we have to notify. It was not a requirement in 1990, probably why they didn't get a notice. It was not required.
Dorothy Wells.
Good afternoon. I'm Dorothy Irvine Wells. I reside at 134 Florence Place, Mobile, Alabama, 36607 for the past 40 years. I appeal the approval of having a parking lot put at my own backyard. My property adjoins 137 Tuscaloosa Street, and this is where Pulmonary Associates of Mobile, they want to, I don't know what's going to happen with the house, but in order to have a parking lot, you can't have a house there, big trees would be torn down. I wouldn't be here today if this was not a B1. And I have a letter from Richard Olson, who told me what the protocol was in 1990 to become a B1. And notice his words to send. I have it right here. Notices weren't sent out. I don't know why. Only one person was notified, and I heard it was Al Caracalino. He's 2 doors up from me, and he stated that, well, I remember somebody yelling over the fence and saying, would you mind if we have a counseling center? And Al said, you know, what's a counseling center? He said, yes. Now, he said he did not even go downtown. I have information, the application that was incomplete. The names, even on the application, it states to list the names of the property owners within 300 feet. It was left blank, and they said, see attachment. The see attachment is a letter from Carol Wilkerson from Mary Ann Merchant. This was in 1990. And also Billy Frost, William Frost, in 1992, when he was at the Planning Commission, and Carol Wilkerson wanted to rezone it from a B1 to a B2. And William Frost said, if I had known that this was a B1, he said, I would have prepared more for opposition. Also, we mentioned about, there's Audrey Fields on Tuscaloosa Street, did not receive a notice. I did not receive a notice. The Wilburns across the street were there longer than I was. They did not receive a notice. And also Linda Boswell. And if it's on the application, I have the application right here. Why would it say list the names of the property owners within 300 feet? Why would that be on the application? And also, Richard Olson said it is protocol. I want to ask you, what is protocol for a property owner who wishes to go from a R1 to a B1? What is the protocol? I'll take anybody's answer.
Mr. Olson, I'm going to ask that you come and briefly answer that question.
300 feet. And here's a procedure that follows for rezoning in 1990. It's listed right here.
Mr. Vice President, while he's coming,
Yes, sir.
what's before us is that you are asking us you appealed the decision of the planning commission to the city council. The motion before us is to grant what you asked for.
I know.
So,
but-
so are you trying to convince us not to vote for what you want? I mean, we're trying to go that route if we
know.
can.
This is just saying, it just
But you're
is-
going into the past. I don't. It won't have. It's not germane to what we are trying to do.
Okay, I know what you're trying
Okay.
to do. I appreciate that, but I just wanted to mention it because it's, to me, it's very important. What is the protocol?
Mrs. Wells, as Mr. Olson comes, your time is expired.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Mr. Olson?
Yes, sir. At her request, I did send Ms. Wells a letter explaining the protocol for zoning in 1990. In 1990, there was a requirement that the Planning Commission send notices to property owners within 300 feet. That requirement was not on the City Council. The City Council sending notices came sometime later. I'm not sure exactly when. I think it was in around 95 to 97. The file was sent to Archives. Obviously, it's an old file. Archives has not been able to locate that file. We have other files that were not sent because they were different types of applications that were on that same agenda. Those notices for those applications are in those files, which tells me that notices were sent for all files. As for the names on the application, that being blank, it's not uncommon for people to attach a separate list for the names and addresses because it's much easier to prepare that than to type on those small lines and spaces on an application. So that's where it stands with the 1990 zoning. We feel all appropriate notices were sent for the Planning Commission and the public hearings were duly held. A sign would have been posted on the site, as we do today, notifying the general public.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Olson? Thank you.
Larry Smith.
I'll be really brief. I just wanted two things.
Get your name and
I'm
address?
sorry, Larry Smith, address 1 South School Street, Fairhope. I'm the civil engineer for the project. Ms. Wells had mentioned taking down trees. If you've seen the site plan, we are preserving all the significant trees that we could on that site. That was very important to us. I just wanted some clarification. I know the last time we were discussing this and we were here before y'all, that the motion seemed to be a motion to send it back to the Planning Commission because of some nuances with them not doing, I guess I'll call it a litmus test, I don't know, stating it. So is that what we're talking about here today, or what are the ramifications of the decision today?
Mrs.
I don't think we need a legal opinion unless, all he's asking is what's going to happen. Right. If this motion passes, it will go back to Planning Commission. If this motion does not pass, it will not.
Well, I think he was also asking, and forgive me for interrupting, but you were asking why we would be considering that, because you were saying something about a litmus test.
The wording just seemed different than the last time we were here, so I just wanted to make sure that that's still what the case was. It sounded like the last time we were discussing it going back to the Planning Commission was so that the Planning Commission could state their reasons for granting the PUD or not. And so I want to make sure that's where we're going today, or is there somewhere different that we're heading with the approval of the appeal?
Okay.
I think that should be answered by our council.
My understanding is if this motion passes, it'll go back to the Planning Commission for a de novo hearing as if nothing happened before. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Start all over.
That is accurate, Ms. Cochran?
That is correct.
Okay. Let's get to the next speaker.
Okay. Joseph Zerfler.
Joe Zerflu, 3908 Springbank Road in Mobile. Thanks for letting me speak. I just wanted to clarify exactly what's going on. There's been a lot of misinformation about exactly what's taken place. I think the primary thing to know is why we are looking to use these properties. There's a property on the corner which is historically been a medical practice, and we intend to renovate that practice and see patients for pulmonary and critical care needs. Pulmonary Associates is a very large pulmonary group in the country, and I think it's got a great reputation in Mobile. I think we'd be good neighbors, notwithstanding the oak trees. The type of patients that we see are barely ambulatory, and the current place that we see patients is on the 4th floor of Mobile Infirmary. It's very difficult for our patients with oxygen bottles to make it upstairs, and even getting into where elevators are is a challenge for some of the patients. So what we're hoping with this property is to be closer to where the patients live and to be on a ground floor with the parking lot close enough that they can actually easily ambulate into the office and be seen. That's really what we want the property for. The last thing that I'd ask that you be aware of is that before we ever purchased the property, we did ascertain that it was zoned properly, but also we began working with the city to notify all the historic preservation interests in the city that we had no intention of tearing that house down. We recognize that that's an important historical value, and we want to give the house away. I think it's not for lack of effort that it hasn't been moved, it hasn't been saved yet. But we have, that's our interest, that's what we want to have. And we have a couple of people who are talking to us currently about receiving that house as a donation. And that's all we ask anybody that's interested in taking that house and moving it, is that they respect the legacy of the house. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
H. Don Bowden.
Mr. Zuckler made my point.
Okay. Mr. LaFleur, did you want to speak on this subject or another one?
No, this is on a different house.
Okay, all right. I think that's all the speakers on this subject.
Okay. So
one more? Oh. Yes, Bruce McGowan.
Thank you all for your time. I know it's been a long day. Bruce McGowan, 251st Street, Mobile, Alabama. I'm here in my capacity as a member of the Executive Committee of Mobile Historic Development Commission. We appreciate the motion. We appreciate the second. We appreciate the vote, hopefully, that we're going to get to consider this again. This house was built in 1831. To the extent that council would care to look at it, there are a number of copies of photographs of the house, and then it was listed in 1992 on the National Registry of Historic Places. It was built in 1831, added on to as recently as 1873. It's a historic property that deserves to be protected and preserved. If the council kicks this back to the Planning Commission, and a Planning Commission, after it looks at it again, decides that it's not going to affect the character of the neighborhood and they can't work out anything with the Rite Aid parking lot next door, decide to grant their PUD, we'd like it to be a condition of the PUD that the house has to be either remain in place or it has to be moved. And if it's not in the PUD, I mean, I appreciate what they're saying and their intent is great, but if it's not in the PUD as a condition, then it's not binding on anybody. And I know that's not anything you can layer on here today, but we would ask that you individually or collectively express your support for preserving this house to the Planning Commission. Thank you all very much.
That's it.
Okay. Any discussion from the council? We have a motion and a second.
Mr.
Any
Vice
discussion
President.
from the council?
First of all, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to thank everyone who's come down here. But I'll remind my colleagues that this is not about a house. What we are to consider, and what our authority is to consider, is whether or not the Planning Commission acted without authority. if they acted so arbitrarily, if they did what I'm not even sure I understand the full definition of, and that is they acted capriciously. The question before us is, should we, for one of those reasons, return this action to the Planning Commission so that they can then act appropriately? Ours is not to question their solution or their answer to what was presented to them. Ours is to ask whether or not they acted appropriately. This is not about a rezoning in 1990. This is not about a house. And I think that anybody who is interested in preserving this house and putting up dollars is going to get listened to. Because it's going to take money. And if someone in the preservation of this house and an act to preserve this property, I personally, and I in the seat, would be supportive to the extent that the city does not end up with the house, that the city does not act as the sole party to moving the house, restoring the house, maintaining the house. But this needs to be some type of preservation effort. Lastly, it's a private property issue. This house was bought. This house was on a property that was rezoned before the purchase and is now the property of the applicant. I think we're going down a slippery slope if we return it for the purpose of a delay. And I would hope that we do not. Thank you.
Mr. Richardson?
Thank you.
Pardon me, Mrs. Rich and then Mr. Richardson.
Okay.
I'll be very brief. We touched on this at pre-council yesterday, and we received information from our attorney that spelt out the Planning Commission did not state facts. And this is actually, I've struggled with planning issues for a long time, and I represent a district that saw a lot of land changes and continues to see it. And I was very pleased to see that train of thought be written down as a legal opinion, that we must have facts behind the decision of the Planning Commission. And I want to be supportive of a community that's come forward to say the change is going to be difficult, and I really do respect that. Oftentimes they're very, very correct. But this is really about the Planning Commissions and the report that was given to our office on an appeal. We do not hear PUDs. They are the final act of a PUD unless appealed, and the council is always the one that's dealing with the struggling competition on both sides of the aisle because of that. But I believe it should start over, and I will be voting to accept the appeal based on the fact that there needs to be more concrete information produced by the Planning Commission, which I am a member on behalf of this council, so I welcome that. And I'm glad to see that start, because I believe that it will really bring our community up to a higher standard with land use and land use changes.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I agree with Mr. Williams. The house at 137 Tuscaloosa Street is not before us. I would like to state now that I would like to see the house preserved, but it's not before us. When it was 137 Tuscaloosa Street is in District 1. I represent that location. When I saw this item placed on the council agenda, the appeal came to us because the citizen who appealed it felt that the Planning Commission's decision was arbitrary and capricious. So it was appealed to the council for us to reverse this. So when it was appealed to the council, I didn't know whether it was or not. I asked our attorney to render a decision. Her decision was that the planning commission decision was arbitrary and capricious. That's why my motion was to grant the appeal, and it would go back to the planning commission. I'm not asking the council to vote on no house. Hopefully all of that's going to work out in the process. If the best they can do is offer to give the house away, and they said they would give it away. If they don't have no tickets, it's probably going down. If nobody volunteered to take the house probably going down. That's not before us. What's before us now is a motion to grant the appeal. I stand behind the motion.
Any further discussion from the council? If not, let us vote. All in favor of the motion will be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
All those in the opposition?
Nay.
Nay.
The vote is 5-2. The appeal, the motion passes.
Appeals granted.
We have a request for waiver of the noise ordinance on March the 3rd at Mardi Gras Park, on March the 17th at 250 Marine Street, on March the 11th at 1009 Dolphin Street, and on March the 4th, 1279 Glen Acres Drive East.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Public hearings today are public hearings to fix costs for securing or demolition of structures at 1953 Antoine Street, 251 Rylands Street, also known as 257 Rylands Lane, 1854 Comez Street, 1705 Northview Drive, 1202 Arlington Street, 2718 Briley Street, 368 St. Charles Street, 8 Lemoyne Place, 2483 Sadner Avenue, 261 Ryland Street, 1407 Congress Street, 1102 Congress Street, 1621 Levine Road, 172, also known as 160 Lincoln Boulevard, 2108 Hamilton Road, 4106 Yorkshire Lane, 1010 Houston Street, 964 Kentucky Street, 627 Crenshaw Street, 367 South Royal Street, 2353 Hart Avenue, 2001 Edwards Avenue, 1561, 1563, 1565 Dominic Street, 1311 Congress Street, 1014 Dolphin Street, 460 Dexter Avenue, 526 Donald Street, 1051 Ledyard Street, 657 Chin Street, 655 Chin Street, 2002 Good Street, 966 Seneca Street, 2308 Cecilia Street, 2601 Bank Avenue, 367 Ryland Street, 365 Ryland Street, 1263 Adams Street, 1252 Heights Street, 2716 Farnell Drive, 2705 Farnell Drive, 2154 Senator Street, 1612 Marengo Drive, 2665 Mural Lane, 212 Ingate Street, 1705 Sligo Street, 1336 Adams Street, 1258 Baylor Avenue, 325 Border Drive West, 2433 Ridge Road North, 1907 Oak Knoll Circle, 1517 Navco Road, 1575 Robert E. Lee Street, 1567 Robert E. Lee Street, 6404 Biloxi Avenue, 2710 Bank Avenue, 1630, also known as 1632 St. Stephen's Road, 2014 Edwards Avenue, 2817 Bank Avenue, and 2155 Robinson Street.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak to any of these properties mentioned for public hearing? Okay, we're going to ask that we're going to hear from everyone. Again, we're going to ask that if you could make your or if you could summarize your commentary to about 3 minutes, please, on each of these properties. And if you all could just line up or come after Mr. LaFleur is finished, and we'll hear from you. If you could state your name, your address, and the property that you want to speak on?
Yes, my name is Burton LaFleur, and I'm here in reference to 1907 Oak Knoll Circle. 1907.
Your address.
Oh, my address?
Yes, sir.
Well, that is one of my addresses, but 2216 Rue de la Fleur.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Once again, my name is Burton LaFleur. I am in the real estate business. I'm also a candidate for House District 99, which is the seat that James Buskey is going to be vacating this year. And I am here in reference to my residence at 1907 Oak Knoll Circle. Now, briefly, I just want to give you a little timeline about what's going on with this. Okay, in 2004, Hurricane Ivan struck Mobile. I had a tree that fell into the house in 2004. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina struck this area. I had another tree that fell into the same place in the same location where the previous damage was. In 2005, my insurance company canceled me. Okay, and I don't know if some of you may remember, in 2005, insurance companies stopped writing insurance in this area, and the ones that were writing insurance in this area jacked the rates up extremely high. At that point in 2005, my insurance became unaffordable. I was unable to afford insurance on that house. Okay, in 2007, I was then approached by AL.com, who asked me if I would be willing to do an article, an interview, about the 1967 bombing of my grandfather's house, John L. LaFleur. I agreed to do an interview with AL.com and was asked some questions that I wasn't quite prepared to answer and wish I hadn't answered. Approximately 3 months after that article appeared in the newspaper, my house was set on fire. Okay? My house at 1907 Oak Knoll Circle was set on fire. It was an arsonist. First they came out and they ransacked the whole entire house. They came out again on a second occasion and set one fire at the residence. The fire went out. At that point, I had to literally go to who was then Chief Hargrove, Deputy Chief Hargrove, and literally demand that the police department open an investigation of this situation with what was going on in my house. Finally, he assigned a detective to come out and investigate. The detective came out, met with me on a Friday. The next Saturday, the arsonist returned to my residence and set the house on fire again. At that point, the entire shell of the inside of the house was ruined. Now, I didn't receive any support from the police department or the fire department. It is my belief that a hate group was involved in the arson of that home. I paid $169,000 for that house, and it's on the market, and I'm also applying for some loans to renovate that house. For a period of time, the house just sat there because I wanted whoever set that house on fire to know that they had destroyed my life and they had destroyed the lives of my family. Luckily, no one was hurt in that house, but they destroyed our lives. Now, to this point, you know, there's never been any arrests made, never been any speculation. The police basically refused to investigate. Now, to make a long story short, what I'm getting at...
Mr. LaFleur, your time has expired. I'm sorry. Mr. Doffenbach, if you could come and give us some commentary on this briefly. 1907 Oak Knoll Circle. It's on here for to fix costs for demolition of structure. If you could just come and give us some brief commentary on that house. I'm sorry, Mr.
Well, just to end, I'm in objection to the demolition of that structure.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Okay? I strongly object to it. Yes, and this is in your district, Mr.
Yes,
Richardson.
it is in my district.
Good afternoon, David Dockenbaugh, Deputy Director of Municipal Enforcement. Just to follow up on Oak Knoll Circle, this is one of the 32 that was misidentified. This is an administrative securing. Municipal Enforcement has already done the work to this property. We have secured with doors and windows and also the fire damaged portion at the rear of the structure. We have secured the property. It is not scheduled for demolition. This is, again, one of the 32 on the list that we have of the 52 today. That is administrative securing, fixing cost only. The work has already been done to this property.
Mr. Dr. Mark?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can I speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We've heard from Mr. LaFleur. He is opposed to demolishing the property. Let me say, first of all, I live in the neighborhood. And since this house caught a fire, the neighborhood been complaining about this particular property. So the law states that if it's open to vagrants and the foundation is undermined, the city can intervene. So evidently what the city did was went in and secured it. Okay, so we've done that. Okay, so what would Mr. Burton have to do? What is his next step? If he doesn't want the house torn down, what he has to do?
Right now, the City of Mobile has no action pending for the demolition of the structure. I just want to back up for a second, just briefly go over the blight survey that we're aware of with Bloomberg. The blight survey went out, identified structures that were in blighted condition, and we went forward with either securing or demolition based on those criteria that you mentioned. The exterior conditions of either structural defects with the roof, exterior walls, or foundation. Those are the three common ones that will score demolition. However, Mr. LaFleur's property at Oak Knoll Circle does not have those conditions. He had problems with the rear of the property and then also some broken windows. So the city went forward administratively and secured the property after sending notices to Mr. LaFleur. But the work was not done by the property owner. So we had to go forward, secure bids, quotes, and we chose the lowest bidder and secured the property. What's here before the council today is the fixing of the cost, the work that was done, whether or not we're going to invoice him, the property owner, for the costs associated with the securing of the property. And again, okay, we have no intention of going forward with demolition action at this time.
Okay, I see what you're saying. The city wants its money back for securing the property.
That is correct.
So we're on, Mr. LaFleur, essentially we're at the same page. You don't want the property torn down, the city doesn't want to tear it down. Next speaker. No, sir.
Good evening. My name is Edward Charles Wiggum. I'm representing Joseph Wiggum and Dorothy Wiggum of 2817 Banks.
Mr. Wiggum. Huh? We need your address.
Up 2817 Banks Avenue, Mobile, Alabama, District, 32617.
Do you live at 2817? Do you live at 2817 Banks Avenue?
I lived at 2817.
And you're here about 2817?
I'm here about 2817.
Okay, thank you, sir.
What it is, my father, he deceased, and he left me in charge of doing the things that need to be done. And I did agree with the city to go ahead on and demolition the house. And I didn't get no kind of paperwork or nothing pertaining to what it's going to cost or this or that. So I'm trying to do that now today, to sit down with someone so I can try to make a plan and something to plan to pay the bill. All right, they demolished the house, this or that, but they left a big old sinkhole in the yard. It looked like it's in Trinity Garden, so it looked like pool in the yard. They didn't put no dirt in it. They tore the house down. I didn't know they was coming. Upon that date, I didn't know they was coming. I had stuff in the house and this or that, and I lost quite a bit of stuff. But right now, I'm not concerned with that. The house is torn down now, and I got a big old sinkhole in the yard.
Mr. Wiggum, Mr. Doffenbach, will you raise your hand? If you will get with him, he's the gentleman that you need to see to have all the commentary relative.
Well, last time I was down back in August, they probably been discussing this with me then. All they did was just took me outside, like you're doing now. Right. Took me outside and told me to get back in touch with me. But at the same time, I figured they would get back in touch with me on the demolition of the house and this, that, but they didn't. So I'm here with the intention of paying the bill if there's arrangements made.
Yes, sir.
So,
well, he's still the guy you're gonna need to talk with.
All right then, because
yes,
the house was not in my name at that particular time, but right now I'm the one who is responsible for it. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming down. If you could again get with Mr. Doffenbach, raise your hand again, and stay on it. Hey, if he get his card, get his email, get his number, make sure that they communicate with you, because he is the gentleman that you need to speak with. Thank you. Next speaker.
Hey, how are you all doing?
Good evening.
My name is Ashby Pauley. I stay at 2010 Clinton Street, and I'm speaking about a house on 2002 Good Street. The only thing I want to do is appeal the cost up, the cost for demolition or structure, the fixing up the structure. It's a family structure. I've been keeping the yard up for years, and I put wood over some of the windows. But what I guess they came in and did was they put probably about 3 more pieces of plywood up, and they're saying $2,300. So I want to appeal that cost. You know, I've been paying the taxes on it, keeping the yard cut. I even pay people to do stuff for the house. And but that's only my concern. I spoke with the gentleman up here, and he said he would look into a couple of things, but I just need to start here with the appeal process up to $2,300. Because like I said, I put some of the wood up, and some of the wood, he said, man, let me see what he said.
Mr. Doffenbach, if you could briefly come and describe what we've done here. Can I get your last name again, sir?
Pauley, P-A-U-L-E-Y.
Mr. Pauley, any appeal relative to the actual cost, that would be an administrative matter. That wouldn't really be something for the council.
Well, this is just to know that I got to come here.
Yes, sir, I understand. If you could briefly go over what was done there relative to the $2,300.
Sure, at 2155 Robinson Street.
No, 2002 Good Street.
I'm sorry, 2002 Good Street.
Yes, sir.
The city, this is one of those 23 that was mislabeled. It's labeled in your notice as a demolition, and it was not demolished. It was secured.
Yes, sir.
And what the city does is when we need to secure a property, we go through and board up the windows and secure the doors to the IPMC, International Property Maintenance Code, the 2015 version that the council just adopted. So what happened here is some of the windows were boarded, but not to the city standards. So when we go in and perform the service, all of the windows are boarded to the standards of the 2015 IPMC.
Yes, sir.
And that was my only concern. I can speak with him. I was just thinking, the plyboard I paid $30 a sheet for, if it wasn't standard, you know, I should have been made aware. So I could have went out and purchased that board. So I could have did the work, or paid someone to do it. You know. So just trying to see where I need to go from here. Just speak with him, or
I think that would be your best out. And if you're not satisfied with the outcome of that conversation, you know, we're not in a position to appeal the actual hard costs, because those are hard costs. They accepted the bid of the lowest responding bidder. And so I would just have a further conversation with Mr. Doffenbach.
Oh, and the other question is, I didn't get a notarized letter till it was time to come down here. But when it was time to fix the structure, I didn't get a notarized letter. So I keep up with all my paperwork. So I'm just trying to figure out, why did I have a letter to come here, but I didn't get one as far as the fixing of cost? Because I can pay for the structure to be fixed, and I have resources to make sure that the repair is done.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I'm just trying to make sure, if I can be notified personally or by a registered letter, so I can have it done, instead of going out, because somebody was saying the lowest cost to put 3 pieces of board on the door is $2,300.
Yes, sir. I totally, I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
Again, Mr. Doffenbach, and I hate to just keep throwing
That's
it to
fine.
him, but it's his department. He'd be the most responsible person to talk with.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down.
All right.
My name is Lillian Viegas, and my address is 1220 JoJo Road, Pensacola, Florida 32514. I'm about 2155 Robinson Drive, Mobile, Alabama 36605. That particular house, I believe we have the same situation that was just mentioned. It has not been demolished. The letter did say it was demolished or being demolished, and they do want to The bid supposedly is $3,700. I have a problem with that. Again, I'm sure you're going to refer me to, I've already talked to Mr. Dockenbach or so forth. My issue before the council, for whatever it is worth, it is in Mr. Small's district, I believe, is first of all, that's an irrational cost, $3,700 to put some board that I personally know we've done it multiple times. There's no police presence in that neighborhood. Every time we put boards up, they tear it down. The neighbors across the street see it. I've had a whole vehicle stripped in less than 24 hours right there in the yard where someone's looking at it, and nothing's done about it. But when it comes time for more money to be added to taxes that I'm struggling to pay, because I'm a school teacher, and that's my mother's property who's deceased. My sister and I have inherited. My sister does not live here, and she's currently incarcerated. So all of those expenses are on me. So $3,700 to pay for someone to put boards on windows is a problem with me. So if the city is okay with allowing that to be the lowest bid, then perhaps I'm in the wrong line of work, and I should be a carpenter instead of a school teacher. There's no police presence in the neighborhood. They prey on the poverty in that neighborhood. People throw garbage in my yard. Every time I go and clean it up, I get more trash, household trash. I'm not talking about litter, household trash. And the city bills me for it. And then I have to pay, after going to clean up myself, then I have to pay and repay. Now I owe taxes, plus $3,700, which Mr. Dockenbach has already advised me. I can make arrangements on that, and if I fail to make arrangements to pay $3,700 that I do not have, they'll put that lien on my taxes. So when I pay taxes and think I've paid my taxes, I won't have paid my taxes. And then the next thing I know, I'll see it in the newspaper that it's been sold for taxes. Because in fact, I'm only paying the lien for someone to put boards on my house that probably cost $200. That's a grievance for me that I think that the city should know about. First of all, we need police presence. There's a continual prey on poverty there. That's an irrational price. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
My name is Jesse Cobb, 5397 Hartley Road in Satsuma. I'm here in regards to 2716 Farnell. I have actually purchased that house, or in the process of purchasing that house, and I've been working on it along with purchasing 3 or 4 more in that neighborhood. Prior to the plywood going up, the doors, locks had been changed, and the house was secured. You can go over there every other day and there'll be a busted window. So if you know, I'm wanting to buy, let's see, I can tell you the houses that I'm interested in over there that I'm looking at now are, let's see, 2765 Foray, 2604 Farnell, maybe 2602, and there's one on Cadillac. And if I got to pay $2,600 to board the windows up every so often on 4 or 5 houses, then I won't be refurbishing any houses in the city of Mobile. That's where I'm at.
Have you had?
Well, I spoke to him earlier today.
Yes, sir.
And this paperwork is kind of like, I think maybe when the paperwork got sent out, it was in the midst of being transferred from me to the person I purchased it from. And a lot of these houses are being bought on tax liens, and some of them are not even being paid $2,600 for.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, you can't buy a $2,600. And here is, I have pictures, which I know I didn't bring enough for everybody, but I have pictures of what the house looked like when it got boarded up. So.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I'll get with him. I'm telling you, he was real helpful with me. Okay. He was real helpful with me earlier today.
Yes, sir.
I was down here at 10:30 and I forgot, which actually I'm a fireman with the city of Saraland. And I thought this was important, that I needed to be down here to try to get this resolved.
Yes, sir.
So I wasn't able to attend justice services today, which I did go yesterday. So
yes, sir.
I'm okay, but you know, this is, you know, I'm wanting to help rebuild, refurbish, and clean up that neighborhood, and I can't do it if I'm being charged $2,600
I totally understand. If you could have further communication with Mr. Dockenbach, I believe the councilman.
Yeah, well, he was extremely helpful with me today, but like I said, I've been down here pretty much all day, so I at least wanted to come speak my piece.
I don't blame you.
But he was
He was helpful to me earlier, so
Wonderful.
we're good.
Wonderful.
Mr. Vice President?
Yes, sir. Mr.
Is it possible I can ask Mr. David Dockenborough a question?
He doesn't hear.
Mr. Dockenbach, I believe we have a question from Mr. Small.
Yeah, Mr. David, I have a question for you. We had heard from several residents talking about the cost to fix and board up the windows and doors. Is it made available to the particular owners of those properties, the 3 bids that went out and the companies that bid, and what was all 3 bids came in at? Is it possible for them to see that at any given time?
Yes, if they contact our office, we'd be more than happy to sit down and explain to them and show them the bid recap sheets. That is part of the process. I just do want to remind council that the securing of these structures is administrative, that you would not have seen this in the process of council hearing to declare it a public nuisance. Council looks at and reviews for public hearings to declare a public nuisance for those houses or structures being demolished. These houses were being secured, and yes, anytime that the property owner has a request, we will be more than happy to discuss the lowest bids and the recap sheets.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that information would be great with the particular property owners, especially ones that don't think they're being fair assessed.
And before we move on, I just want to follow up with Farnell. The gentleman that spoke previously is not currently the owner. He's in the process of purchasing the property. So during our notification procedures, he would not have been listed on the recorded documents, and therefore he would not have received a letter or a certified mail of the pending action. However, we do post the property with a placard or a sticker on the front, and we do file a list pendants at the very beginning of the property. So those that do their due diligence, like a title search, will receive that notice.
I have a question of David, too.
Mr. Richardson and then Ms. Ricks.
Okay. We've had about 3 of the speakers with the same issue. They want to know how can they appeal the elaborate cost of fixing the house up. And no one addresses. It's like 311, where people call 311 and they get no response. They call us because they think they can appeal to us because we don't have any, it's administrative. They want to know, based on what you sent them and they don't like it, how can they appeal that to somebody else?
Let me answer that question.
Yes.
Mr. Woods?
Mr. Chairman, so let me make sure that I understand what the councilman is asking. How can those costs be appealed? That is what we're doing here today. The people who come and ask about the costs, as the chairman mentioned, these are actually hard costs. I mean, right. It is the city recouping that money. So what they're doing by coming here today is asking you to change those costs, those hard costs, before you actually affix them. So it is up to the council, and it is in the council's hands to either affix or make some kind of change. So they're in the right place at the right time, but as the chairman mentioned, those are real dollars, hard costs that we're trying to recoup. So
that's what you're saying.
That's why I'm just trying to answer that question to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Mrs. Rich?
Thank you. When you're going through the process and notifying people, and sometimes things fall through the cracks, I get that part. But with Mr. LaFleur, he was well aware of the process and he was in the loop, in other words.
Yes, after we received communication from Mr. LaFleur, I did look at the file, right. And we have documentation where we sent certified mail, but not only certified mail, first-class mail to his business.
Right.
And
owner of record.
The downside is it came back rejected, the certified mail, but the first-class mail did go through because we did not receive it back from the post office.
I don't think he denies not being in the loop, but what was interesting is that if a certain material is used, and he referenced that he used, I think it was somebody mentioned they used a certain plywood that did not meet our city standards. Are people given a list of how they can secure it on their own so that the city doesn't have to send it out to bids and meet standard? Or are they flying on their own there?
If they have a question, they're always welcome to give us a call and we'll be happy to explain to them. However, when we send out, not so much with the nuisance abatement process here, but with our structural reports, we do enclose, because this comes up quite frequently, the boarding standards as an addendum to their notices that they receive for a structural report. Now, it's not necessarily a process that we send in the nuisance abatement, which is what's here before us, but there's a good chance that some of these properties will go through a field inspector first, issuing a notice of violation, and that is part of the structure report that they received is the boarding
So they do
standards.
learn that.
But again, if there's any questions, they can call us and we'll be happy to explain what those standards are.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Dolphinball, let me make sure I understand correctly, because I assumed when we went into this that when this happened, you contracted to have the site secured, and it was secured by our contractor, and then whatever, and after, you know, due diligence, and I guess you get several bids for each. Do you do it like, do you say here are 20 properties that need to be secured, or do you do it property by property?
The process that currently is happening, there will be a group or multiple properties
Right.
that we would request a quote from the local contractors that engage in this type of activity. And depending upon the contractors returning a bid, we would select from that pool. So it could be up to 5, it could be up to 2, or it even could be up to 1.
Yeah. I just want to say that I appreciate very much the work you and your team are doing. You know, we had, I think it was 56 separate properties on our agenda. Part of it is because we didn't meet last week. But we all know that what the council is encouraging the administration to do, and the administration is doing, is being much more aggressive in attacking blight in our community. And so there's certainly, if we're going to be aggressive about it, if we're going to be efficient about it, there's going to have to be a certain amount of standardization with respect to how we go about this. And I think that that we need to accept that and go forward. It needs to be as certainly we need to make sure it's fair and as transparent as possible, and that adequate notice is given and that kind of thing. But I don't see how we can possibly do this if we treat each one of these properties as a one-off. We've got to have some kind of standardized process with respect to how we do this. Thank you.
Any further speakers for these particular public hearings? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Tamika Waller, and my address is 1853 Seal Street, and it is Mobile, Alabama 36617. And I'm here in regards to property that belongs to my mother, and that's 2014 Edwards Avenue. My mother's disabled, she's in a wheelchair, so it would have been hard trying to get her down here. My situation is a little different. What it was a store property that my grandparents owned. It was the community store that they had. It was demolished. And the whole process that they went through, my mom was treated very harsh. I mean, the way she was talked to and everything. And I'll speak to him, but I'm not sure if he's the man that has come to my mother's house after this situation has happened. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. It was a lot of stuff that was in that store, as far as like old Coke machines, Coke bottles, a lot of that stuff. Antique stuff was in there. The man that demolished it, they got all of that stuff. But now you're asking my mom to pay $2,700 for the demolition cost. But one of my things is, what about all the stuff that they were able to get out of the store? Like I said, it was old Coke bottles, Coke machines, cash registers, all these antique things that was worth money. And a neighbor up the street said that the guy that did the demolition, he told him, he said, I came up, I got a lick out of that particular property. Now I'll go back to the incident that occurred when my mom, the man showed up at my mom's house and said he was out there to tear down the storefront. And mom said, I haven't gotten any notification. And we went back looking at different stuff. My mom has not gotten any notification. They said they have notified my mom, my aunt, which were the heirs, and 2 other people. We don't even know who these people are. And once I got involved, as far as coming down here, speaking with different people, now all of a sudden we're receiving correspondence to this property for us the taxes, because the taxes have always been paid on that storefront. Even though it was an old, abandoned, so what building or whatever, but my mom has always paid the taxes. It was not behind on taxes. And the thing is, why was she notified prior to this? Now they said they've sent out the proper notification and everything, which we don't have. But all of a sudden now that I've brought this to different ones' attention down here, we're receiving paperwork, but now it's after the fact. The store is tore down, the property is just empty property there. All of the stuff that was in there, like I said, antique stuff that belonged to my grandparents, it's gone. And they told my mother, the man that tore it down, it was his. He could have whatever that was in the store. Because my mom asked, can we at least get the stuff out? They told her, you had a day. Like I said, my mom has 2 children, myself and my sister. I work, I'm a correctional officer at the jail. How can we move all of this stuff out of the storefront within a day or 2? But then y'all come back. I mean, it was just a big mess. They came back and cleared all the stuff out, like I said, and then it's demolished. Now you want my mama to pay this money to pay for the demolition. It was not handled correctly. And they can say whatever they want to say about they sent out the proper notification, but how could you when I know we haven't received anything? But it's a done deal now. Everything is gone. My family's history, for us, like I said, this is a resident that was next door to Hank Aaron where he grew up. And so I'm like, okay, y'all want us to pay this man this money, but he has received everything that was in that store, all of the antique store stuff. And it's, I don't think my mom wasn't treated right during this whole process. And it's just not fair.
Yes, ma'am. If whoever contacted you was discourteous or curt, then it probably was not Mr. Doffenbach. Now, I'm sorry for the loss of all of your personal antique items. I can certainly sympathize with you and empathize with you on that. And I'm going to ask again that if you could speak with Mr. Doffenbach. He's been amenable to working with each and every individual in the past. In the 5 years I've been here, he and his staff have worked with everyone in a very courteous and professional manner. So it doesn't sound like that was Mr. Doffenbach. If you could get with him, and again, if I could go back and change the circumstances where you all could get that property, I would. Unfortunately, I can't change it. Yes, neither can you, and I'm sorry for that loss. But if you could have your commentary with Mr. Doffenbach relative to this cost, that's because at this point, it's a hard cost for us. And I get what you're saying, and he's probably going to be your best remedy.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming.
I think that's all. I believe that's all that wanted to speak.
Then that concludes this series of public hearings.
Public hearing to rezone property at 7080 Airport Boulevard, northeast corner of Airport Boulevard and Cody Road South from B2 to B2 to remove a condition of approval.
Is there anyone here that'd like to speak to this particular public hearing?
Mr. Vice President, I'll just call attention to my colleagues, their email accounts. We had a late email, and I believe this is the one, Richard, this is the one that we got the email on. There is multiple pieces or documents that go along with this. There would still need to be a vacation before they would get full use of the property, but this would take away one of the obstacles in the process. So we're not clearing it completely. We're simply clearing one of the obstacles, and they're going to have to do some vacation a little bit later, not just a wave of the hand. So there'll be future action that this property owner will have to take.
And I spoke to Councilwoman Gregory, and she mentioned that she favors this understanding and would vote in the affirmative if she didn't have to leave for a community meeting tonight.
Wonderful. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else that'd like to speak relative to this public hearing? If not, public hearing is closed.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Reggie Hill.
Oh, we were going to hold that.
Mr. Hill, we're certainly happy to hear your commentary today. We're going to have to ask, as we've done with the public hearings, if you could limit your commentary to about 3 minutes. It would certainly be appreciated.
Mr. Chairman, who I'm delighted to see back in the chambers. Glad to see you covering well to the members of the council, Mayor Stimson, and citizens and stakeholders of Mobile, Reggie Hill, 200 Government Street. I rise today to speak about public safety, and it's just very interesting to me all the complaints that we've heard today about public safety within the city and the practices that they wish could be taken in the places that they reside or some portion of their family is in that area. And before I speak on my position, I just want to send my deepest sympathy, regards, and condolences to Aaron and Taylor. I was fortunate to attend the memorial service this morning, and it was a surreal moment to see all those individuals paying their respects for something this major. But as many people said, the fight will go on, and I'm in stern belief of that. And what was interesting, the Director of Public Safety, he said that we will fight for that which is right and righteous. The Public Safety Director also went on to say that becoming a police officer, it's an instinct to protect other people. And we heard about heroes and all of these things as well. And the Director of Public Safety went on to also say it's not how we die that makes us a hero, but how we live. Over the course of the past 3.5 weeks, I too have had my home broken into. The home right next door to my home was set completely on fire, and it stands now just the brick outer layer of the entire property. As well, in a city-owned building, was having to be escorted out by police along with young children for an unlawful act. Now, let the record show and be known, I was one of the only citizens that was not employed by the city of Mobile to come down here at city council meetings and public safety committee meetings, speaking on behalf of raises for police officers, speaking on behalf of raises for our first responders, because of the regard that I have for that profession, because of what I believe they have to risk every single day to do what they claim to be serving and protecting. But we haven't really seen a validation for why certain people like myself and other city employees came and spoke up on behalf of those services. Now, I'm a very optimistic person and a very faithful person, so I don't dwell in the things that seem to be bad because there's someone greater that controls all of this. But I do feel that if we're going to move forward in the ideals of improving public safety in the community, there's going to have to be some serious transparency. If we have individuals who are down here all the time and present things to you all the time, that same respect and regard should be given to those individuals that you're supposed to represent. And it's unfortunate that we see these acts, these criminal acts, even by people in position of power that are supposed to lead, serve, and protect us. Now, I will be making personal communications. If you just bear with me just a few seconds.
That was your time.
Well, I mean, at the beginning of the meeting, you stated that we would have 5 minutes to speak.
We've had to change that for everyone, and that same change is going to have to impact you. I appreciate what you've shared relative to your commentary, but again, that is your time. We have a very long and lengthy meeting, and if you need additional time, we'd ask that you sign up to come back and address us in a future meeting.
Well, can I have the time that I was not allowed along with that time next week?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I will sign up to continue this next week. I thank you for all that you all do. Thank you.
Laura Jackson with Mobile United.
Hi, I'm Laura Jackson. I live at 108 Hilltop Court, Mobile, Alabama, 36608. Thank you for your time and interest in our project. Today I'm representing Connect Mobile, class of 2017, a Mobile United program. Basically, they foster a group of young professionals to come up with a common goal. Our mission is Wave to Work, to learn about how public transportation can help Mobile move forward and offer convenient and safe transportation options for Mobilians and tourists alike. This is not just, a public transportation advocacy campaign. Really, it's a discovery mission, getting to know our current riders and potential riders in the city of Mobile, finding out who does and who doesn't ride the bus and why. Our method is really going to use volunteers and online distribution of surveys to current bus riders throughout the Mobile area, analyze those results, and then culminate these efforts in a Wave to Work week that will be held on March 5th through March 9th. During this week, we will encourage non-bus riders to try to commute one day of the week and see how that goes and take a non-rider survey. Our goals of the project are to collect that data, analyze what's working, what's not working in the current system, springboard some changes based on these results, and then serve a larger percentage of Mobilians as a whole. Why is this something we should all care about? We know that public transportation helps reduce the need for more parking. It reduces traffic congestion, improves tourism within the area, reduces our overall carbon footprint, helps the unemployment by providing reliable work transportation for those who do not have cars. To date, we've collected nearly 150 surveys with important feedback from your constituents. We have also received interest and support in accomplishing our mission. To date, we've received sponsorship and in-kind support from Downtown Alliance, Amalgamated Transit Union, and BB&T. We also value the support that we've received thus far from SARPC. We know and very much appreciate what the city has invested so far in the public transportation system. Increasing the outreach of our project will only make your money go further. We need your help in reaching out to your respective districts to participate in the Wave to Work Week. We also want your constituents to take our survey so that we can really get feedback from all of Mobile. I have a copy of our press release here for more information, and we hope you will participate.
I have a question, if I could just ask.
Mr. Daves and then Mrs. Rich.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Thank you. I'm delighted to hear that you're taking up this inquiry. I'd like to offer a little guidance, if I may, on how you may want to, or some other aspects of it you may want to look at. I think in addition to talking, well, let me start at the beginning. Mobile currently spends 3 times as much as Huntsville and 2 times as much as Mobile on public transportation. We make a significant investment compared to our peers in public transportation. Councilman Richardson and Manzi and I guess this was last year I believe, we went up to Birmingham, Montgomery, Birmingham, and Huntsville and met with the public transportation officials in those 3 cities to talk to them and understand what they were doing in public transportation in those cities, how it differed from what we do here, and where the disparities existed and why they existed. It was a very informative trip, and I would just urge you, and the way what I heard you say was the data you're going to collect is going to be solely from riders. I don't know if that's your plan, but if that, and it's going to sound critical. I'm not trying to be critical, but if the only people you talk to are riders, I can tell you what they're going to say. There need to be more routes, and there need to be more often buses. And the only way we can do that is to spend more money on our existing public transportation program. So I just ask you to look at a broader database than just what the riders have to say, because I think practically speaking, if we're going to make any changes in our public transportation system in order to increase ridership, then those changes are going to have to be done within the current budget allocation and not by adding additional money to the current expenses on public transportation. And I think certainly I know Councilman Richardson or Manzi would be delighted to chat with you or your team at any time.
Just to be clear, we are also getting non-rider surveys as well. And we're meeting with a lot of different groups that provide different feedback that aren't just riders themselves.
Okay. If I could ask, and I think I have this that you are getting out to the public. I'd like to offer putting it in the district newsletter, and you might want to change besides "Do you ride the Wave?" because somebody might glide through it and then not want to fill it out, but they might have some good ideas even if they don't ride it, because they might want to have it
Absolutely.
So you need to know what even non-riders are thinking about, because people are familiar with busing when they go and travel places,
Yep.
and they often use the mass transportation.
Yep.
And we don't do that so well here. But I'll provide the live link within the newsletter, and so if you want to just kind of perk their interest and change this up just slightly if it's not asking too much of your group.
Yeah.
And if you could get it to the city clerk's office, we'll get it in newsletters for you and let our public who read our newsletter give you some feedback, hopefully.
That's great. Yeah, we are trying to reach that non-rider audience, so that's a great point. Thank you.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
I totally agree with Mrs. Rich. If you provide us something that we can share in our newsletter, we'll get it out, and hopefully it will add immensely to your pool of data, and look forward to kind of seeing what your conclusive results come back with.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Williams?
I just want to let you know that on the 13th of this month, I will be riding the bus to work. On the 13th of this month.
All right.
I'm riding.
You mean next month. Next month, you better tell
All right. Wonderful. Yes, ma'am.
Ordinance is held over. Ordinance 50-002, amendments to Chapter 50 of the Mobile City Code, public improvements to add a new Article 4 entitled Mobile Tourism Improvement District.
Move the table.
I thought we were going to put this over to May 8th,
Whatever that Tuesday, yeah.
whatever that Tuesday.
There's a motion to
No
table.
second, go ahead.
Is there a second?
No, there wasn't. Go ahead, Joel, make your motion.
Amendment.
Move, is May 8th make sure.
She's just.
Just a minute, I'm checking.
We're spitting.
Move delay over till May 8th.
Second.
Proper motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Laid over till May 8th.
CIP resolutions held over. 21-071, authorized contract with Asphalt Services for 2018 CIP sidewalk repair and maintenance.
So
Move the table.
Oh. Wait a minute.
Is there a second to the motion to table?
My understanding, Mr. Wesh, from talking to Mr. Woods, was that the administration wanted this laid over, or tabled for a while.
I remember it was, that was announced previously. I have not talked with Mr. Woods, but that would be consistent with some prior discussions, so the administration would certainly favor that.
Oh, second.
With proper motion and second. Any discussion?
Okay, let me make sure I understand. This is the sidewalk work in districts 5, 6, and 7?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me just make sure I want to, because I've been telling citizens the contract is coming, so this will be tabled and we don't have a date certain though.
That's correct. There's still some issues to be worked out.
Okay, the last time I spoke to traffic engineer, that was not the case, but.
Okay, so there's a motion, the second to table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I didn't hear enough votes, ladies and gentlemen. Let's try that again. All in favor, let me know by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain because that's not the information that I was given just this week, so.
That'd be 5-1 with one abstention.
Yeah.
Right.
Resolution 21085, authorized contract with McCrory and Williams for 2018 CIP Texas Street Rehabilitation, Broad Street to Ann Street.
So move.
Probably motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Resolutions held over. 01091, authorized master services agreement with Engineering and Planning Resources for Tiger Grant 1 Mobile.
So moved.
Second.
Probably motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
21087, authorized and 088, authorized agreements with University of South Alabama speech pathology audiology students for clinical education at the Connie Hudson Regional Senior Community Center and 4 sales centers, and an agreement with University of South Alabama to provide students with instruction and training in physical therapy at Connie Hudson and 4 sales centers.
So moved.
Second.
Probably motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items passed.
21089, authorized contract with Robert J. Baggett for Cooper Riverside Park floating dock.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
35090, authorized lease agreement with Grebby for approximately 4,100 square feet of the Buick Building located at 451 and 455 St. Louis Street.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
04, this is ordinances being introduced, 04-004.
By council rules, this ordinance will be laid over for 1 week.
Yes, sir.
Consent resolutions being introduced, numbered 03116 through 60163.
Motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration on 03116 60163 with the exception of 31161.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items approved.
03116, appoint Gary Witherspoon to the Ladd Peoples Memorial Stadium Public Parks and Recreation Board.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
I will take the three liquor licenses together, 37092, 093, and 117. Recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a restaurant retail liquor license for Satori Coffee Shop on O'Shell Road, a retail beer, table wine off-premises only license for Sammy Food Mart on Spring Hill Avenue, and a special events retail license for Callahan's Irish Social Club for the 2018 St. Patrick's Day celebration.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items passed.
I will take all the demolitions together, 40, 094, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 118, 19, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, and that's it.
How about 56 and 57?
Oh, I'm sorry. 156 and 157.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items passed.
58113, 58158, and 159 and 160 are removal of weeds, group 1575, 1576, and assessed cost for removal of weeds, repeat lien group 13 and 16.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items passed.
6162, approve award of special bonus to Micah Jones as part of the Mayor's Incentive Program.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
6163, authorize all donations received by the City of Mobile for the Officer Billa Memorial Fund to be remitted to the Mobile Law Enforcement Foundation.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
CIP resolutions being introduced, 21164.
Motion for the suspension of the rules for mere consideration of resolution 21164.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
21164, authorized contract with Burke Kleinpeter for 2018 CIP Glenwood Street rehabilitation.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Resolutions being introduced for the first time, 09114 through 25167.
By council rules, these resolutions will lay over for 1 week.
Announcements.
We'll start with Mr. Williams.
I have none, thank you.
Mr. Small?
I'll say mine for next week.
Mr. Richardson?
Well, I think I'm gonna say something.
Wow.
Well, I'll be holding a community meeting for the Crichton community on Thursday, March 22nd. This meeting will be at the Dumas Wesley Center, 126 Mobile Street, at 6 p.m. And next week will be in March. This is the end of Black History Month. I want to say something. It was James Weldon Johnson that wrote the song, the Negro National Anthem, Lift Every Voice. I want to call your attention to the last stanza, God of our weary years. When he wrote, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the marvelous light. Keep us, O God, let's have our feet straight from the path that we met thee. Let our hearts, drunk with wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath our hands, may we forever stand true to our God and true to our native land. That's it. I didn't do the other two, so I cut it off.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Mr. Davis? No announcements. Mrs. Rich?
Yes, I'd just like to let the community know that there's a district meeting planned for the Hillcrest Traffic Access Management Plan, which is the corridor between Relot and Cottage Hill. It's an open house format at this Connie Hudson Senior Center, 3201 Hillcrest Road, on Thursday, March 22nd. At between the hours of 5 and 7:30, I'll also be sending postcards to people within that corridor, so to remind them to attend. Thank you.
I'm going to just have a few remarks. I want to thank each and every one of my colleagues and everyone in the district, my church family, my family in general, for your prayers over the last 27 days. Have come a long way from February the 1st. Still have a good ways to go. But through God's grace, certainly make an improvement, and I appreciate the support that I've received from my colleagues, from the staff in the city clerk's office, in our office, from the community at large, and just solicit your continued prayers. And that concludes my remarks. Well, there's no one left from the administration. Do I hear a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Ricardo came up to me right before this meeting when we were in here. He said they haven't got task force services, haven't got